I hope I get this one right. Etiquephobia. Anybody would want to hazard a guess of what this could mean? Any guesses? Well, Greek, of course. It means, in short, a persistent fear of failure. And all of us live under its huge umbrella. Most of us, at least, live under its huge umbrella. I know for a fact that I did for the longest time. So before I get into my journey, let's do a quick dipstick, a fun dipstick. How many of you have seen a Facebook post like this on your Facebook timelines, where somebody is acknowledging having met the love of their lives? By your reaction, most of you, yeah? What about this? Have you ever seen this? When love turns sour, have you ever seen a post like this? What about this? If your Facebook timeline is anything like mine, then at least in summers you would have seen it pasted with people's pictures in exotic locations. This gentleman here, of course, is in Paris for a conference. But have you ever seen a Facebook post like this? This is what really happened at the conference? I would dare say no. While these images are, of course, exaggerated to catch your attention, the fact is, and this fact is not exaggerated, that there is a near repulsion around failure in our culture. And as someone has so well said, that we are keen to offer up the sparkly milestones, but never the spiraling meltdowns. And it was fear of these spiraling meltdowns that kept me in my comfort zone, in my cushy corporate job for the longest time. I used to work with the news channel Aaj Tak, heading their sales function here in Delhi for over a decade and a half. And it was good going. By any external standards of success, I was doing well, even if I say so myself. There was many a time in these 16 years that I was in this corporate job that I asked myself if what I was doing was really impactful. And when I sat to query myself what impactful meant for me, one or two words always popped up: writing, coaching. They popped up with a lot of persistence. And with the same persistence, I kind of outshouted them and continued on my corporate sojourn. So about 16 years into my corporate job, steadily climbing up the corporate ladder and living by the monthly paycheck, I finally mustered enough courage to take the entrepreneurial leap. What happened after that was even more interesting. Of course, I had my own fears and vulnerabilities to contend with. We are all part of the EMI generation, remember? Other than that, I had this host of naysayers telling me that what I had done was taken the most fickle-minded decision of my life. And for all of us who thrive on external validation, it was quite mortifying, to say the least. So let me admit, I'll be brutally honest with you. There were days that I woke up with this sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach. And at 9:15 a.m. particularly, these pangs became extremely worse, really intense. Because 9:15 was the time I traditionally sat in my car and started to drive towards work, right? So many a times I asked myself this question if I had taken the leap in a fit of overconfidence. The long and short of my own story is that for over 2 years, I went through my share of struggles, covered my face with sweat and blood and dust, till some semblance of sanity finally started to return to my life. What I went on to do is to launch a content writing studio that kind of assuaged my love for writing a little bit. And other than that, I went through the grind, studied, got certified as a life coach and an LLP practitioner. So life slowly got back to normal. In short, the 9:15 a.m. wasn't as tumultuous as it used to be. The one thought that never left me through this journey was that the women's entrepreneurial and creative ecosystem did not have enough meaningful storytelling. We didn't have enough tales that fellow travelers could look back, they could stand and hear them and get inspired from them. A whole generation of women have grown up ruining the lack of professional role models, and I don't think it'll come as a surprise to many of you when I tell you that India ranks a low 70 among 77 countries on the 2015 Female Entrepreneurship Index. And this is data as released by the Washington-based Global Entrepreneurship and Development Institute. This really sowed the seeds of Dare to Be, a book that would chronicle the journey of 14 women, chronicle the journey of women who had dared to follow their passion. These were ordinary women made extraordinary by the single-minded pursuit of their passion. These would be women who had faced tremendous odds in following their heart, but they hadn't given up. They hadn't cowered down to those obstacles. So I approached these 14 inspirational women, and to their credit, they decided to open up their hearts to me. They decided to tell their stories of success and their stories of struggles and failures, most importantly. Because actually, when we admit our own failures, it is then that we extend grace to others to be able to admit theirs. So, word of caution here before I take you on a little journey, a snapshot of what the book actually talks about. A little note of warning. The book isn't an irresponsible call to dump your corporate careers. If anything, it is only an impassioned appeal to be true to oneself and let that guide your life and career paths. So the book had stories of women such as Sonam Kalra. She gave up her corporate job to follow her love for singing, only to lose her singing voice to laryngitis for a year immediately after that. For anyone else, it would have been a clarion call to go back to their comfort zone, to their corporate jobs. Not for Sonam. She held on, and today, of course, the Sufi gospel project has touched chords in many a heart. Sairi Chahal, of course, needs no introduction. When we set out to capture her story, we got to know that she was the first woman in her extended family who set out to pursue a career. And today, it's no mean feat that she's this huge inspiration for a whole lot of women as she's reconnecting these women to their careers. Kanika Tekriwal, the founder of Jet Set Go, so much was her passion for entrepreneurship that she describes her early brush with cancer as a blessing in disguise. Why? Because it put her parents' plans for marriage for her on hold and gave her time to follow her entrepreneurial dreams. So as you can see, these are absolutely different career paths, totally different career stories. But the one thing that emerged in common when we spoke to each of these women is that they said that while taking the leap may sound like jumping into an abyss, but as long as you opened yourself up to experiences, as long as you did not let other people's definition of success impact you, you were going to be just fine. None of these women were born into great wealth. They didn't inherit any running businesses. So the one question that I had to ask them is, what about financial considerations? Didn't that worry you? And woman after woman had this to say, that whenever there was a choice to follow money versus following passion, their experience said that if they followed passion, money eventually follows. And let me tell you, there wasn't any attempt by them to glamorize or romanticize the concept of entrepreneurship. In fact, Sucheta Pal, India's first Zumba master trainer, opened up her heart to me when she admitted that early on in her journey, she had overdosed on depression pills. And that then became a huge wake-up call for her to single-mindedly pursue her passion. As I said, there was no attempt by them to sugarcoat their struggles. They said it exactly like it was. So they said, if being an entrepreneur is tough, being a woman entrepreneur is tougher, and being a young woman entrepreneur is tougher still. Having said that, they also said that as long as you did not, because of these external factors, you did not start to second-guess your own abilities, you would be more or less fine. You know, we featured the story of Neeti Palta in the book. Most of you must be aware of her. She gave up her advertising job with JWT, India's largest advertising agency, to turn into a stand-up comedian. And she told us about this whole story of when she was actually taking the leap. So many people found her decision to make a career change untenable. And of course, she was making her foray into a highly male-dominated industry. Nobody had ever heard of female comedians. And at the end of her story, I asked her one question, that what would your advice be to female entrepreneurs who are sitting on the fence? And this is what she had to say. She said, if you have a passion, overall it is better to live with, oh shit, instead of what if. Regrets had no place when life ended. Courage, they say, is contagious. When you own courage, when you lean on to courage fully, it has the potential to change not just your life, but the lives of many other people around you. And I think these 14 stories have the potential to do that. Having said that, Dare to Be is not just about these 14 women. Dare to Be is about each one of us. It is about all our stories. And no matter what your daring is, whether it is big or small, whether you've dared to take a leap to follow your passion, whether you've dared to reconnect with your career after many years, your story needs to be told. And these stories are important to be told because only when we share these stories will we build an ecosystem that is based on strength, which is based on empathy, and most importantly, an ecosystem that does not thrive on the fear of failure. So I therefore urge all of you to share your own Dare to Be stories with fellow travelers in this room today. As I said, it doesn't matter whether your stories are big or small, whether your daring is big or small. What is important is that these stories be told. So over to you all. I'd love to hear from you.
Any questions? Rinku, I see one person hiding, and I need to ask. So, as many of you know, or you may not know that actually, this is one of our largest gatherings, the SHEROES Summit. But earlier this year, we had a SHEROES Work From Home Boot Camp. And I had the pleasure of meeting two wonderful ladies at this boot camp. One is Poonam. Poonam, are you here? She left for the day. Okay, bye, Poonam. You're not on the spot now. But Piyusha, who is right here, is Rinku, just like you, following her passion of writing. And I think has an amazing story to tell. So from the time we did the boot camp until now, she has actually... So when she came, and let me preface this by saying that when she came to the boot camp, she was a little bit... She knew she loved writing, but she was a little bit unsure. She was kind of like, how do I do this? I know I love this, but I'm not really sure if I want to take the jump. And today, she's grown leaps and bounds, and yes, I'm going to come to you with a mic. Will you share a little bit of your story with Rinku and maybe see if there's any synergies for a question?
I always say I'm a writer, not an orator, so please forgive me if I'm really bad at speaking. 6 months ago, I quit my job, and then I thought, what now, what next? Because I didn't have anything to do next inside. So then I decided to turn back to what I liked and what I had already been enjoying in my childhood, which was writing, reading, and recently photography. And I started pursuing that. I started writing. I started out with fiction, then went on to non-fiction, then went on to humor, travel. And the latest in this story is that one of my short stories has been selected by a traditional publisher in a collection of short stories by different authors. So one of those 24 stories is my humor article. And although it's not something which is very big, it's a very, very small achievement for me, but it's a step in the right direction, I think.
Absolutely. As I said, no dare is big or small.
Awesome. So anyone who asks a question gets a copy of the Dare to Be book today. So does that make anyone more brave? Yes. My lovely friend Neha.
Hi, Rinku.
Hi.
Thank you for the encouraging talk and for being you. I wanted to know, how did you deal with the switch of being a media person, a salesperson, to being a writer and coach, the whole transition phase?
Yeah, as I said, the transition has had its period of heartbreak.
Yeah.
And the 9:15 a.m.s were particularly tough.
Yeah.
But having mustered the courage to take the entrepreneurial leap once, I thought I was quite driven by my passion. Having said that, there were times where there was enough temptation to go back to the corporate job on a fat paycheck again and turn everything right with your world again. But I guess it's just the ability to persevere which has got me. Cliched as it sounds, that's what has got me here. That's what I would offer. And I mean, you have to dare to dream. You have to take that step one day. Whether it comes 16 years into your career or 26, that's immaterial. Yeah.
And Like this one lady that you talked about who suffered from depression.
Yeah.
So a lot of, like, I'm a young woman entrepreneur, and a lot of us, end up working alone because initially you can't afford many employees, or you don't have many people around you.
Right.
And it's also one of the things, I think we as Indian women, we are never taught to be alone, to live
Absolutely.
alone or to work alone. So what would you
Absolutely.
like to say on that?
So you miss a whole lot of those water cooler conversations and just generally getting together in the corporate space. So I think that's why summits like this, conclaves like this, and generally building a community of people who think alike, I think that comes in handy. So I'm sure, as Avni has been talking about, meeting a whole lot of people here who've turned into lifelong friends, I think developing a sense of community helps in that slightly lonely journey. And writing particularly is quite a lonely path to traverse. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Hi, Rinku.
Hi.
Rinku, I believe there are a lot of people like me who are dealing with to identify their passion. So do you have a litmus test for that?
Yeah, I wish I had a red and a blue litmus paper and you could pour acid or alkali and it could turn like that. But I think it's a whole long process of self-discovery. And as I said, to me, while everything was going well, I was hearing Nitya Shanti's session, and I'm sure you all attended it, and he was talking of those 4 circles. So I think the 2 circles that I was in that time is stuff that I was good at and stuff that I was being paid for. So really you need to draw those 4 Venn diagrams for yourself and see what really is your mission and your passion. Unfortunately, there isn't a shortcut, but each of us has to find our own ways. Yeah. Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, this side. Hello.
Hi, I'm Monica.
Hi.
Dare to be, and my dare is exclusively different from most of. I was a homemaker for 13 years in a small town, and fate brought me to Gurgaon. So my dare to be, like, there is no, you can be in for sabbatical for any number of years. You have it in you, you can dare to be, and like in a short span of 9 months, I joined a course, I became an image consultant in a short period of 10 months of lending in Gurgaon, and I'm all starting my startup as a consultant, as a firm. So like sharing my story, that it doesn't matter where you come from, it's important where you're going.
Absolutely, you've said it all, really.
Okay, like she just mentioned, I have my own short story to share.
Right.
I am a new mother, and my pregnancy wasn't really very good, and it was very complicated. I had issues earlier, so all throughout my pregnancy, I was like at home, very depressing period. And I think that was the time that gave me to discover myself, who I am, what is my passion. I'm a marketeer by profession. I have been into marketing professions over a decade now. But writing is something I thought is where I can vent out my feelings. And it really gave me a platform to write down and share all that was going in my mind, because I was bedridden for 9 months. I didn't have anything to do, so I thought, let me just write down my stories. And like Piyusha just said, that some of my stories have been picked up by some traditional media houses and published. And I kind of feel that, you really have to discover your inner self and find out the reasons to be happy. There are enough and more things around you to let you down, to put you down. But unless you feel or you think that you have the power within you to change everything around you, I think that's what you really need to discover. So you can yourself help you. Nobody else can do that. So I think that's just my short story to share.
Absolutely.
Hi. This side.
Yeah, hi.
Hi. It's just a small question related to the book. There are 14 stories. Which is that one story that you connect with the most? I mean, which is that one story that moved you?
Very difficult question, But if I really had to pick one out of the 14, I would pick up the story of Niti Palta. I thought giving up all the trappings of success, all those trappings of being in a big advertising agency, the designation, the paycheck and everything, and then taking a leap into an absolute abyss, you know, and an industry that is so heavily male-dominated, everything is kind of stacked against you. But to begin, and she said that when she got her first corporate gig, that was at a princely sum of 5,000 rupees. So from there to build her way up and today to be known for stand-up comedy, I thought. But having said that, all the stories are as inspiring, but that's the one I connect with the most.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Maybe one more question. We have one in the back.
Hello, hi. Yeah.
Yeah, hi.
Hi. My name is Ritu Parna, and I'm a professional storyteller. So I tell stories to, I can see a lot of heads turning. So I tell stories to children, I tell stories to adults, corporates, anyone who likes a good story.
Right.
Now, and it's great that somebody's doing some work like this. My one question to you is that, something which I have observed, is that women are not open storytellers. They're not story sharers. They don't take ownership of their stories. Somewhere in the morning, somebody asked about women mentors, right? So somebody in the panel couldn't really recall any one woman mentor, right? A lot of us are working professionals. How many women mentors do you had? Any? Somebody, a woman who's really consciously mentored you, other than Sheroes. Sheroes not allowed. Yes, very few hands up there. I think one of the reasons why, because women don't go and ask for stories. They don't ask as young professionals. Nobody goes up and asks somebody who that, please, can you tell me what can I do to get to the next level? And the other thing is women don't share. So for all the women that you met, are they all open story sharers? Or did they take ownership of their stories and say, yeah, I think I achieved it, and I achieved it well, and I want to tell the story to others?
Well, these 14 women were, I would admit. However, they admitted that they had grown up ruining the lack of professional women mentors, role models, as you were pointing out. So yes, I think that's why meaningful storytelling of women is a very important task that some of us need to go out and do. Because, as I said, India ranks very low on the female entrepreneurship index even now. And you're right, unless women come out and share their stories, how do others draw inspiration from them?
I think it's really because women don't pay any importance to the stories
To
that they have
themselves, yes.
The stories that they have within themselves.
Absolutely.
The story of struggle is also a story worth telling people. So I think that should be a big takeaway for all of us here.
Absolutely, I agree with you, yeah.
Women don't want to share.
Women are story keepers. We are story sharers.
And actually, traditionally, that's how we connect to each other, and that's how we transmitted information. We transmitted it through the art of storytelling. Rinku, thank you so much
Thank you very
for
much.
sharing.